Hello everybody, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this is your first time visiting me. You've come to a doozy of a deck walkthrough. This is going to be a deep dive exploration of the Nameless one, Tarot and Oracle. And the Grimoire. This is a deck by Alexandria Huntington, I believe, who goes by Zia Huntington. We're going to get into all of the things about this deck because I think it's really special, and I want to do this just as a way of getting to know and bonding with this deck. And so I thought, why not bring y'all along with me? So let's get into it. A couple of caveats. You might be able to hear my air conditioner. If you can, I'm very, very sorry, but I was getting very warm in here. I've been filming for the last couple of hours, as I tend to do a lot of my YouTube filming on the weekends, and it got warm. So this is what's happening. In any case, this was a really special purchase for me. The Nameless one is something that was not on my radar at all, and I talked about it briefly in my last recent deck roundup, which I will try to remember to link somewhere in the description box for you. I will also, of course, have the link to the creator's website where you can purchase an authentic copy of this deck and this grimoire, or one or the other, or whatever. I'll have all that down below. Now, I should point out, these are both individual products. Like, you can buy them as a set, but they are both comprehensive, complete, beautiful products. We're going to get into it because I have to. But the grimoire, oh my gosh. So this is like the companion grimoire to the Nameless one, a tarot and oracle deck. This is beautiful. I really do want to talk about this, and we're going to be going through this in depth, I think, as we go through the deck. But I want to show the cards so you at least know what we're doing here. So a couple things. I just got this in recently, and it came in with this beautiful velvet embroidered bag that matches, that has the sigil for the deck. You can see that here, which we're going to be talking about. Now, I think some contextual, I can't speak. I'm so excited about this. Some context is important here. I am a big believer in and practitioner of sigil magic. So this is sigil magic. This is a very, very witchy deck to me. It's got a lot of magical purpose and function for me. That's how I intend to use it and work with it. And this is not the kind of deck I plan to do basic divination with, although I may. I'm definitely going to read with it, but I mean, it's not going to be the kind of thing I'm going to whip out for like a random reading about what my month's going to be. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like that to me. But the context you should know is that I'm very passionate about sigils. I use sigils. I make sigils. I work with sigils regularly in my practice. It's one of my favorite types of witchcraft because it's so accessible, and there's so many ways to work with sigils. If you are not familiar with sigils, they're essentially designs that you create to represent a concept or an idea, and you can then work with that sigil in a number of ways. You can charge it and then destroy it, or exhaust it in some way as a one-time use. You can charge something repeatedly over time and give it more power over time. It's a really accessible form of spellcraft that requires very little. It's paper, pen, that's it, intention. And so it's powerful, accessible magic that you literally do sigil magic for anything. There's actually, if you don't know already, I have a channel membership here called the Unicorn Fam, and we have a book club. And one of the early books we did in the book club was Sigil Witchery, which is a book about sigil magic. And we had a lot of fun going through that book in my membership. And then as a result of that, we actually created a special sigil for my channel membership, the Unicorn Fam sigil. And that sigil then became a custom emoji for members. So members of the Unicorn Fam, if you see the purple heart with the spiral and the rainbow crescent underneath, that was a sigil that came about as a result of that study. And if you are a channel member, you can actually go back and find the original live stream where we created it organically on the fly as a group. And it was incredible, powerful. When I tell you sigils are a thing for me, they are a thing for me. I felt like that was important context, because if you're not interested in sigils, if sigils are not your thing, this might not be your jam. This might just be like, what is all this gobbledygook on the deck? It like might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me, and I'm excited about it. Okay, that's the context. So we're probably going to get a lot of gushing. That's just how it's going to go. Now, I just had this, I did a poor job of retying this, but I just had this deck open a second ago when I was filming the my recent deck roundup, but now I'm going on to do this dedicated video. So you see this sigil a lot throughout the deck. It's on the back of the cards, it's on the front of the grimoire, it's on the front of the box, the back of the box. You're going to see it everywhere. It's on the bag. The sigil, I think this is important context. When you open the first page of the grimoire, here's what you see. Every time the sigil is seen, more power do the nameless glean. By the might of land, wind, flame, and sea, to powers untold I hold the key. As I have willed, so shall it be. So the sigil itself is charged by being seen by people who use this deck and work with this deck, which I think is pretty great. So I think that's interesting context. You see that same incantation here inside the box. Every time the sigil is seen, more power to the Nameless Glean, so it goes on from there. And again, that sigil is on the front of the box. It's on the back of the card. So here is the back of the cards. We have the sigil, and it's in a metallic silver foil. From a practical standpoint, I should mention that I'm going to just grab a card here for context. These cards are very large. This is not a deck I'm going to riffle shuffle on my table, right? Okay. So here is the card size, right? Here is a standard Rider-Waite-Smith style card. You can see the difference, right? They're quite big. Like, I'm not going to be able to riffle shuffle this deck. Although I will say the cardstock has a bit of bend to it and snap, which is great. But it's a monster of a deck anyways. It's quite thick, it's quite big, and there's bonus cards. So as you can see, the box is massive. Like, again, here is a standard deck box, and here is the side of the box for the Nameless one, okay? Now, the deck itself is made up of 2 parts. Well, 3 parts, I guess you could say. The guidebook. So you don't need to buy this grimoire to get meanings for the cards. You have a really nice companion guidebook here. But there are a set of oracle cards, and there are the 78 tarot cards. So I have them separated because I want to look at those separately and treat them separately, at least for now. And then we have the tarot deck, like so. The guidebook, again, you can buy just the deck with this guidebook and you will have everything you need, right? So it gives you an upright meaning, a reversed meaning. It gives you the sigil affirmation, the name of the card, keywords for upright and reversed. You get some great information in here. There's also some spreads in the back, acknowledgements, and some information about an introduction to the Nameless one. All right, so you get a lot of stuff in the guidebook. Guidebook comes with the deck. Great. This is good because I can't always have the grimoire with me, so I will have something to reference when I'm taking this deck and working with this deck without having to always get out the 10-pound grimoire, okay? But for the purposes of going through this deck, we're going to be looking at the grimoire, or I'm going to be looking at the grimoire. So let's take a quick look at the grimoire contents so you can kind of see what we're in for. So let me see, it's quite big, so I'm not going to try to zoom it in, but we have an introduction to the Nameless One, of tarot and tradition, of oracle and omens, of sigil and shadows, a word about rituals, a word about correspondences, a word about sun and moon energy, and suggestions for working with the Nameless One. Then we have the major arcana, the minor arcana, it goes through the different suits. The oracle arcana, which is this separate little deck of cards here. And then you have all of the appendices. So you have tarot and oracle spreads, sigil magic, master list of sigil affirmations, correspondences. There's a full-on grimoire in the back, which we will look at. All right, and then there's a ribbon bookmark built into the grimoire. This is where I am, obviously. An introduction to the Nameless One. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So there's information here about the Nameless One. We get into this of oracles and omens. A lot of information here about the suits. So I will say one of the things that would be good if you are going to be working with this deck is to have some familiarity with certain basic correspondences for the decks. So for example, knowing these symbols for the alchemical symbols for the elements. So this triangle with the line through it for air, downward facing triangle for water, the downward facing triangle with the line for earth, and the upward triangle for fire. That's useful information to have because you will see those symbols repeated throughout these different decks. They'll be important for like the court cards, for example, and knowing what suit you're in, that sort of thing, because they show up in the sigils a lot of the time. So there's some information here about sex and gender of the tarot, and then we get into the majors. So I'm going to have this open. I'm going to zoom in the camera though. So here we have the Fool. Alternative titles here, if you were to work with this deck as an oracle: the Untethered Traveler, the Wanderer, Flight, the Spirit, the Pure-Hearted One, the Child. The affirmation here is, I am overflowing with bravery, confidence, and potential. So some interesting things here. Now, for me, when I look at this card, I see the little butterfly flying over these Venus flytrap in the light of the full sun. Here we have the sun behind the butterfly. So to me, this is very indicative of the Fool. And that's the main thing that jumps out at me from the artwork. Now, it's interesting because the sigils are white and the artwork behind is kind of more muted. The sigils really, really pop. But the sigil is all about navigating challenging, scary, and unfamiliar territory, beginning a new stage in your life, overcoming the intimidation to start a new project or endeavor. So Zia here gets into, there's like 4 paragraphs on the interpretation of the butterfly. So what I'll do is this. I'm going to read you some of the bits about symbology here in the Fool, and then we're going to go a little quicker through the rest of the deck. But that way you have an idea of sort of what kind of information there is in the grimoire. And then what I'll also do is share with you what is in the accompanying guidebook. So you know, if you were to just get this, what's in this by comparison. So here's what Zia has to say about the butterfly. And this is not without getting into any of the meanings of the card, just the symbolism. The white butterfly represents innocence, faith, and whimsy. Though they may appear fragile, butterflies can travel great distances on a mild breeze. Similarly, the Fool possesses a spirit of wonder and resilience that serves them well on their journey. Unaware of the dangers that lie ahead, the Fool trusts that the wind will carry them where they need to be. Sometimes it will, other times it won't. Either way, the Fool jumps over the edge of the known world into the unknown. Herein lies the catalyst that sparks their transformation, even if their change is only the knowledge of their courage. But change is a long and arduous process, one that may result in unforeseen consequences. In Irish mythology, the white butterfly represents the souls of deceased children, especially those who are innocent casualties of war. Therefore, the white butterfly represents purity, death, rebirth, and a soul on a spiritual journey. The Venus flytrap offers another perspective. Should the butterfly fall victim to one of its many mouths, the insect will nourish the carnivorous plant and become part of something bigger than itself. Wisdom is the death of innocence, but this fact need not be tragic. Learning to assess risk is an essential part of our development. A fool is only able to live spontaneously because she is too naive to fathom life's cruelties. We find both the spirit of the butterfly and the flytrap within ourselves. The butterfly when we are unable to recognize the constraints of our ignorance, and the flytrap after we have fallen into the harsh realities of experience. The butterfly's death brings on transformation as well. Just as she could only have been born by the death of the caterpillar, the butterfly's death symbolizes the risk the hero must assume to progress. Each of our failed attempts nourishes the Venus flytrap within us, making us stronger and more resilient, if also a little jaded. One could also interpret the death of the butterfly as favoring one's spiritual life over the material. For every great reward, there will be an equally great risk. With risk, one learns the value of sacrifice. Even if the butterfly avoids the deadly plant, more dangers await her elsewhere. Nevertheless, the fool leans into the beauty and wonder of the world, consequences be damned. And then for the sun, it says the sun symbolizes warmth, life, happiness, contentment, optimism, and hope, things that the fool possesses in spades. The sun gives life to the Venus flytrap and the butterfly indiscriminately, as both are essential to the ecosystem. The sun also represents clarity. Both the butterfly and the Venus flytrap understand the power of instinct and intuition, yet each expresses this knowledge differently. The butterfly instinctively moves, while the flytrap instinctively remains still. Both survive, warmed by the light of the sun. The Venus flytrap represents our fears, which hold us back and impede our flight. Perhaps it represents the allure of security that lulls us into complacency, or an impulsiveness that distracts us from our long-term goals. Whatever the case, the butterfly needs only to alter her course to avoid demise. Her transformation is inevitable, but it is also flexible. Eventually, all of us will be caught in the clutches of fate, but we also influence how we meet it. The Venus flytrap could also represent a necessary catalyst for change. Often we're meant to go through the proverbial belly of the beast before we reemerge enlightened. While the Venus flytrap represents a danger to the butterfly, from another perspective it can represent patience, planning, timing, and intuition. The flytrap reminds us to avoid impulsivity and stay open to alternative possibilities, especially when the card appears reversed. As a plant, the Venus flytrap patiently waits for her prey to come to her. Often it does. The Fool reversed indicates that we may benefit from being more like the Venus flytrap by choosing inaction. What we need will come to us in due time. The Venus flytrap, as depicted in this card, has 5 hungry mouths. In numerology, 5 is the number of conflict, change, and instability. Harness the patience and endurance of this silent predator, and we can weather life's unpredictable storms. 5 is also the number of freedom and nonconformity. We must choose our path. Whether others perceive our choice as wise or foolish is irrelevant. The Venus flytrap seduces her prey. If we own our path, we will compel others with our fortitude. So then there's also a big paragraph on the colors in this card. Yellow symbolizes the element, oh, so these are very muted colors, but there's the yellow in the Venus flytrap. Yellow symbolizes the element air, the mind, joy, optimism, enthusiasm, and enlightenment, but also cowardice and anxiety. Green represents the element of earth, prosperity, growth, nature, and abundance. Together, so in the yellow-green of this card, together, these colors walk the line between mind and body, idealism and practicality, bravery and cowardice. Red symbolizes the element of fire, passion, sexuality, courage, and love, but also danger and aggression. The stems of the Venus flytrap are yellow-green because they remind us of the power we gain by taking a contemplative moment to recognize our material and intellectual concerns before taking action. More so than perhaps any other spirit, the Venus flytrap knows the abundance that patience can bring. Her red and hungry mouths likewise remind us of the carnal pleasures and gratification that can still be had. After all, delayed gratification is not the same as denied gratification. White represents all the elements: purity, wholeness, youth, protection, naivety, and simplicity. The butterfly is white because she represents the effortless transformation and innocent wanderlust that a young and unjaded mind still possesses. The yellow-green sun that shines behind the butterfly plays a different role than the yellow-green stems that keep the Venus flytraps rooted to the earth. For the butterfly, the sun represents freedom, discovery, and the fruits of the optimistic pursuit of adventure, which are growth and prosperity both of the intellectual and material self. The butterfly is a beautiful but foolish creature. It flies in circles, into traps, and into walls. Still, it flies untethered by doubt. When it dies, it leaves a fragile corpse for all to behold, though only a precious few will ever notice. If you were to look upon its tiny, lifeless wings at your feet, you would not think it failed. If you spared a second thought at all, you might think it flew. Oh, that last bit was really good. Okay, so the last bit I just shared actually in the grimoire shows up right here, just at the end of the entry. Now, I read the entire thing of the symbology. What I did not read, so I'm just going to show you, is this part here, which has an overview, upright, keywords and meaning, reversed, keywords and meaning, the sigil and its meaning, okay? So I skipped that. Now, in the standard guidebook, I believe that's what you get. So let's just confirm. Yes, so you get the upright keywords and meaning, reverse keywords and meaning, and the sigil affirmation, and that's it for every card. Okay, so that's the difference between what you get. So really with the grimoire, what you're getting is this overview section here. So in this case, it says, a single white butterfly dances on the winds of fate, each breath of air pushing her towards her destiny. Instinctively, she understands this truth. A moment is forever, and forever is a moment. Meanwhile, a Venus flytrap lies in wait with 5 hungry yet patient mouths. Expectant and firmly rooted, the plant senses her motion in the surrounding stillness. Its mysterious beauty is alluring to the butterfly despite, perhaps because of, the risk it presents. And then when you get to the sigil section, so these two sections here, upright and reversed, are the same in the small guidebook, but this section here for the sigil, all you get in the little guidebook, let me just show you so you can see, is the sigil affirmation. So the part that's in bold here in the grimoire. Let me get back to it. Where were we? Yeah. So I am overflowing with bravery, confidence, and potential. You get that here, but you also get, the Fool reminds us to take a leap of faith and trust that we will prevail. Yet sometimes we lack the confidence to trust our instincts despite our limitless potential. Embrace it, for you are the only one who stands in your way. And then there's suggested uses for the sigil include, but are not limited to, navigating, I think I read this already, but navigating challenging, scary, and unfamiliar territory, beginning a new stage in your life, overcoming the intimidation to start a new project or endeavor. I'm sorry, my nails are chipping terribly. But anyways, so that is, I wanted to go through one full entry so we know what we're getting. Now I'm going to flip through the cards, share my thoughts, and maybe share a tidbit or two from the grimoire. But I wanted you to kind of see the difference between what you're getting in the grimoire versus what you get in this little guidebook, because this is still very, very good. So you still get a full upright and reverse meaning. You still get the sigil affirmation. That's enough. You're just not going to get all the symbology about what you see on the card and all that kind of stuff. And it's already quite a comprehensive little guidebook. All right, so that was the Fool, quite the deep dive on the Fool. The Magician is a fox, and we see all 4 tools of the Minor Arcana suit. So I'm just going to check for the little ending tidbit, because I thought that was really beautiful. Let's see if this one has it. It does. The fox may not be as strong as the bear, nor as rich in companionship as the wolf. However, he is clever enough to see where there is a risk and where there is a reward. While the strong bear bleeds in the hunter's trap and the descendants of the noble wolf are slaves to human masters, the fox keeps his freedom and survival both. Beautiful. So I feel like there's these gorgeous little tidbits. The high priestess here is a crow. Now, something I noticed, by the way, which I want to point out. The sigil of the magician has what looks like this big stylized M as part of the sigil, which I really love. And the sigil for the high priestess, so we can see her scroll, we can see the pomegranate sort of curtain here, and the moon, the beautiful crescent moon behind the crow. We also have a snake peeking out right here, which is really beautiful. But the sigil has the dark and the light, so just like the pillars, but we can see it in the sigil, and we can see the stylized H for the high priestess here, which I don't know that it does that throughout the entire deck, but I thought that was really interesting and I wanted to point it out. The Empress is really, really empowered. So we have this really strong blade with this like what looks to be a poisonous snake up top. We have the triple moon with the symbol of Venus here in the center of the artwork. And it looks like a stylized E in the sigil. We have wheat. We have the pomegranate. It's a gorgeous card. We have the pomegranate seeds that almost look like drops of blood. Very, very potent stuff. So let me just see if anything jumps out at me from the Empress in the grimoire. So the sigil, I am beautiful, creative, fertile, and fruitful. Oh, and there's one other thing in the grimoire that I wanted to cover. So there's this first page for every card. Let me just show you this. So this has the tarot title, alternative oracle titles, the affirmation, number, element, astrology, animals, plants, crystals, colors, candles, and then a full, I guess I would say like a spell sort of writing. I am a limitless force and powerful too. All that I have, I will give freely to you. Although I may suffer, nurture, and bleed, to withhold would grow only more need. And that is separate from the sigil affirmation, which I think is really powerful. Now we have the Emperor. So we have this really strong, bold ram's head skull here in the center, as well as a blade. I do think it's really cool how the Empress has a downward pointed blade, and then the Emperor has an upward facing blade. I don't necessarily, like I can see an E here for the Emperor, kind of pointed up. There's a few things I can see in the sigil, but I really, really like that. The Hierophant, I love this so much. Okay, so again, I can see the H. And maybe that's a small thing, but I really appreciate it in the deck. And then we have the crossed keys, one in front and one behind this censer. So it's got little bits of smoke coming out of it. Just going to see, it calls it a thurible in the grimoire here. Talks about the symbology of the censer itself, or the thurible, the smoke, the chains that are holding up the thing, the keys, the columns, and the colors, green and violet. Here's a little tidbit. I'm not going to do this the whole way through because there's no way we would be here for literal hours. But it says, what makes an artifact sacred? Who differentiates wickedness from righteousness? Before we accept something as true, we must remember to examine its original purpose. Some traditions liberate us, others keep us blindly compliant. Are we each a sacred bull or a mindless cattle? Which I thought was really cool. So yeah, we have the interesting thing about the sacred bull, of course, and it's actually in the design of the keys, is the sign for Taurus, which is associated with the Hierophant. So there is in the keys, let's see if I can get this to focus. There in the keys, you see the sign of Taurus is built into the key design, which is really, really smart. And then we have the Lovers. This is so interesting because we see, are these doves? Let me just double check. Doves. Yes, we have a dove and a dove skeleton together. Let's just read the little tidbit. I'm going to try not to do this for the whole thing, but we'll see. Love is an exercise in contradiction, gentle yet fierce, pleasurable yet rife with pain. The dove embodies this contradiction. She is a fragile creature with hollow bones, ill-suited for a world as vast and harsh as this one. Yet despite all this, she flies with strength and faith. In her openness and self-acceptance, we find bravery, inspiration, and love. So in the Lovers, there's this very balanced, sort of symmetrical sigil, which I guess a lot of them are symmetrical. We have the feathers at the base of this tree, and there's this heart sort of wisp surrounding it. I'm just looking to see if there's an obvious Gemini on here, but it's, again, you could just really sink into this artwork and find some of those symbols if you're looking for them. Love, of course, the Chariot. I love this. I love the white, the solid, and the hollow triangles pointing in opposite directions here. And the affirmation for the sigil, like the letters that would have made it into the symbol, I am victorious and successful in all things and in all ways. This is just gorgeous. I just really love this. I really love this. But of course I love unicorns, so you know. This, oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Let me back up. These are kelpies. They are not unicorns. Kelpies are Scottish spirits that haunt the shores of large bodies of water. They most often take the form of beautiful horses, but sometimes appear as humans. It goes on and talks about the kelpies here in the Chariot card, which is really cool. I would have never known they were kelpies because we can only see them from the top up, and kelpies are water. But then, of course, we can see little bubbles around them. So we can see now that this is underwater, which makes sense, of course, because the Chariot is the card for the zodiac sign Cancer. So it's a water sign card. So having them be underwater just really makes a lot of sense. This is great. This is the lion with the, like, sort of the thorn through his paw. I wonder if it actually talks about that. There's a story about a lion. Ah, yes. The lion depicted in this card has a thorn in his paw. This references two combined Aesop's fables, The Lion and the Mouse and Androcles and the Lion. In both tales, a creature that the lion might have eaten under different circumstances saves him when he is either trapped or injured. And this was immediately recognizable to me. I was really familiar with Aesop's fables growing up, but I love how ferocious the lion is. I find it interesting that the mouse is a skeleton. And I wonder if it references, it's going to, of course, go into that in here. And this is the thing. I feel like I could literally spend a half an hour with every single card, which is not something, I don't think that's an experience that we get with tarot very often these days, but I think that's really powerful. Oh, okay. Sorry. Then we have the Hermit, and here we have the Owl. The Hermit is associated with the astrological sign of Virgo. And I'm just curious. I love that the owl is like standing on a tree, and from the tree is dangling the lamp with the candle flame. Yeah, lantern and white candle, branch. Even the branch has 2 paragraphs of information about it. The crescent moon in the sky. It's just gorgeous. Okay. And here we have the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, I really like the snakes eating each other's tails. The concept of the Ouroboros works really well. I like that we have basically the moon phases in this sigil, kind of built into the sigil in a way. That really works really beautifully for cycles for me. And the sigil saying is, I remain positive and open-minded in all matters, for I know all things shall pass. This idea that time is cyclical is really, really, really cool here. And then the trees represented here are ash tree branches. And then we have Justice. It's funny because typically I like to see the sword upright, but in this it kind of works because we have the scales sort of in the foreground, and we see a heart and a feather, referencing, of course, the mythology with Mot, the goddess who would weigh a feather and a heart. That's really cool. So that is the Justice card. Love that. And then this is really interesting. So for the Hanged Man, we have a fish, a skeletal fish, actually on a hook. I'm just curious. It's funny because this says astrologically the Hanged Man is associated with Neptune. I thought, is that right? I don't know why. For some reason I'm like, huh? But I do want to hear about the fish. Well, let's just read the last little blurb because that seems to do a really good job of sort of summing up. We are both the fish and the hook, the sustenance needed to survive and the tool needed to attain it. We should not waste our energy lamenting change or disappointment. We may not be able to change our situation, but we can always change our perspective. That's cool. Okay, death, this is incredible. So the actual sigil has scythes built into its symbology. And then what we have here are 3 threads being cut with these stunning scissors that look like they have ravens on them. There's a skull right at the fulcrum point, I don't know what you call that, of the scissors. We have some, I think those are called death's head moths in the back here. Let's see what it says. Moths, raven, and scorpion. I didn't see the scorpion, but yeah, death's head hawk moth. The threads on this card refer to the 3 Greek goddesses collectively known as the Moirai, or the Fates, who spun, measured, and severed the threads of life, destiny, and death. So it goes on from there. And the little blurb, there are so many things in life worse than death and many beginnings worse than their endings. So why should we celebrate one and fear the other? That's such a good question. Like the moth, let us reach for the light even when we are shrouded in darkness. Let us emerge from our endings with the confidence to pursue new beginnings. Love that. Beautiful. And then we have temperance. Now, temperance is really interesting. We've got the, is it a crane? I'm so bad with animals, you guys. The sacred crane. Perfect. So this one is associated with the sign of Sagittarius. And I like that I can kind of see a bow and arrow. Maybe I'm making it up, but I feel like I can see a bow and arrow like stylized into the sigil to represent Sagittarius, but maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see. What I like here is the waves crashing against the shore here. This idea of the both. Yeah, water represents the depths of the subconscious mind. So we've got water and land sort of equally represented on the card. Temperance is not a trait, it is a skill. Like a dance, we learn slowly with each step and misstep until the movements become second nature. Striving towards perfection is admirable, but our imperfections make us human, and our humanity makes us divine. Life is full of paradoxes. Enlightenment is the tightrope between contradictions that we must learn to traverse. We're going to be here for the whole day. I'm sorry. Literally, when I saw this at first glance, I thought I saw a T-Rex. It's totally not a T-Rex. That is a goat, I believe. A dragon. Oh, it's a dragon, I think. Yep, it's a dragon. That's freaking awesome. So this is the devil. You can see the dragon stylized in the sigil, right? You can see the wings. I love that. There's this circular design here that almost feels like it could represent that sort of... like something the dragon is bursting out of in a way. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many things you could sink into. A dragon's mighty roar. I should not be reading these for every card. A dragon's mighty roar permeates any soul who hears it. The question is not if you will hear it, but what you will do once you have. Will you turn and run from the beast, cover your ears and repress its beckoning call? Or will you plant your feet, bury your fear, and roar right back into the abyss of its gaping jaw? Oh my God, really? This is so good. It's interesting to see the art in the grimoire versus on the card because the colors are so muted on the card, but like, let me just show you. So this is what the card looks like for color. Hopefully it's true on camera, but then look at how vibrant the red is in the guidebook or in the grimoire rather. It's quite bold. I kind of wish we had some of that boldness making it into the deck, but at the same time, I don't know if I am or not because I like how much the sigils pop. I don't know. So that is the tower. We are looking for, we see the lightning bolts in the sigil here. I mean, I'm trying to ask myself if I'll know what card I'm looking at, and I think it'll take me a minute, and I think I'm kind of okay with that. This is the star, and of course we have the pentacle just really taking up this big part of the sigil, which I think is really powerful. And then, what kind of moth is that? Let's see if it'll tell me. A pink star moth. Of course it is. And it looks like the moon, but I'm assuming that's meant to be a star in the center. And these are star flowers. So pretty. A pink star moth. There's moths that actually feature. Is it through all the, yeah, it's through all of the celestials. So you have the star, which has the pink star moth. The moon, which features the Luna moth, of course, the Luna moth. I should have recognized it. And I want to know what that flower is. Is that a datura? I always want to say datura. Moonflower. Okay, that makes sense. We can see a big crescent moon in the sigil, of course. And then for the sun, we have a golden sun moth. That's so cool. So there's a golden sun moth, a Luna moth, and a pink star moth. How cool is that? If you don't like moths, though, you're in trouble because there's a lot of moths. We have sunflowers also, of course, featured in the sun card, and this bright, beautiful sun in the sigil. Here we have judgment. This is really interesting because everybody is skeletons. The affirmation for the sigil is, I hear my inner calling and ascend to my highest self, which really works well for me. So we have the winged piper. We have mice down here. Interesting. So the little blurb says, it is time to pay the piper. Perhaps you have heard him calling. Let him liberate you of your greed and petty grievances. In return, he will bring forth a version of yourself capable of leaving the past behind and ascending to a higher plane. Oh. And then we have, this has got to be like a giant like serpent. Ouroboros, of course. And white butterflies. So we bring the white butterflies back from the Fool to the world. So we have a recurrence of that symbology, which I'd love to see some sort of connection, right? That's awesome. And We have all of the symbols for the different elements built into the sigil, which is really cool. Know that in the shadow of every beginning there lurks its conclusion. That's part of the blurb from the end. And now we're into the minor arcana, and there's several pages of chat about them. Now, the court cards are jesters, princes and princesses, queens, and kings. So depending on which court you're in. So it looks like in the swords or the blade suit, it's the princess. In the branches suit, it's prince. In the cup suit, it's prince. And in the coin suit, it's princess. And the way that these are done is all four. Did I mess that up earlier when I was talking about the jesters? I must have. Oh no, the jester cards. Okay, the nameless jesters replace the pages in a traditional tarot and add a touch of whimsy to the court cards. They encourage us to question, wonder, or be inspired by their respective element. They tease out the seeds of truth hidden among the absurdity of our lives and embody the combined aspects of their elemental peers. When a jester appears upright, they represent a fun and lively individual, especially one with a childlike enthusiasm, although they need not be physically young. They are innocent and curious, sure to bring joy and wonderment to those around them. Reversed, they are an immature and sarcastic presence. They may be a rival or an infantile associate whose petty criticism speaks of deeper insecurities. If we manifest this character reversed, it may behoove us to think before we speak and keep our abrasive commentary to ourselves. Good to know. Princesses and princesses signify those who are always pushing boundaries and expanding their ability. Queens, there's more to it, but queens tend to represent those who are creative, nurturing, and capable of bringing out the best in everyone around them. And kings tend to depict those who are natural leaders, diligent, hardworking, authoritative, and capable of manifesting great results. Okay, so astrologically, each of the princesses, queens, and kings are a different zodiac sign. So that's something that I noticed before. So that brings us into, and look at this. We have a beautiful chart of the Western zodiac here, talking about the qualities of each sign. Just a really quick little synopsis of the personality types of each sign. And of course, each one of these is assigned to a different court card, either prince, princess, knight, or prince, princess, queen, or king. There is no knights, right? So the knights are the prince, princesses. Got it. Yes. Okay, got it. So prince, princesses, queens, and kings. Okay. So this has us going into the blade suit. I must have reordered the suit according to my preference. So we'll just set those aside for now. So we'll start with the blades. So we have the ace of blades. So there is a system. I feel like they're very easy to tell. The ace is very obvious in ace. We have a laurel wreath, or I'm assuming it should tell me here. Yep, bay laurel wreath. The crown. We have the broadsword. Very classic, right? But here's what's interesting. In the center of the sigil, we can see the symbol for air. So an upward facing triangle with a line through it. So that's why it's helpful when you're using these cards, if you're familiar with those symbols, because they show up a lot throughout the suit. Now we maintain the alchemical symbol for air here, right? And now there's two dots in the card representing the two of swords. This is so beautiful. We have two swords, each with an open eye. And the actual skull here is blindfolded. So it's like each of his eyes is in each of these swords. That's really cool. I'm going to have to keep turning the grimoire pages so I kind of stay in case I want to refer to anything. Then we have the three. So again, the air sigil, and we also have the three dots. But of course, there's more to the sigil than just that. Here we have three swords piercing a tangled mess of snakes. I'm curious. The Three of Swords is one of those cards that I'm always really curious to see what an author has to say about its meaning, because it can be one of those cards that can be interpreted very differently. So here it says, for the affirmation that the sigil is based on, I forgive myself and move past heartbreak with grace and resilience. Here's the spell sort of wording. I coil myself around the sharp blade in my gut. As my skin aches and bleeds, I wish my heart shut. And yet it beats on, for it has fight left to spare. So I shed this hurt skin and refuse to despair. That's beautiful. I really want the little end tidbit. Here we go. Love is eternal and everlasting, in that even when one relationship ends, we carry the scars upon our hearts forever. Likewise, the people who enter our lives never truly leave us, for they remain in our memories and inform our future. It's interesting because, let's see, overview. It's so interesting to me because it always goes right to emotion, heartbreak. And I don't start there. I start there. I view the Three of Swords differently. In that, because it is in the suit of the mind, the swords or the blade suit in this case, and because it's 3, so the number of growth, I often see it as the mental processing that we go through from difficult experience, which I sort of see as a type of reckoning. I get that here, and it's really cool. Okay, anyway. So then we have the Four of Swords. So in the four, there's still 4 dots. We still have the alchemical symbol for air. 4 dots. 1, 2, 1 in the center here, 3, and 4. So if you were to get lost, but you can clearly see 4 swords. I'm assuming these are poppies here. I'm just going to double check the symbols. Yep, poppies, the tombstone, of course, for the 4 of Swords. For the 5, that's got to be a hyena. Too many Lion King memories. Yes, hyena. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So air symbol, 5. There's 5 sort of blades or spears here. This could, if you're not looking at the elemental symbol for the line that makes it air, I could see this looking at first glance, maybe like the 5 of Wands, just because the spears can be more wand-like in appearance. But yeah, this is the spotted hyena on a pile of bones. Love this so much. Okay, the 6, is that a phoenix? Because that's so perfect for the 6. Please be a phoenix, please be a phoenix. Okay, it says koi, eagle, and mythical birds. I mean, it's a phoenix, right? Oh, it's a specific bird. Okay, hold on. This is Kun Peng. In Chinese mythology, the Kun and Peng are 2 names for the same beast, a creature that transforms at will from a bird into a fish and back again. Interesting. So it can sort of rise up from the depths of like a difficult emotional experience and sort of take to the sky. It's really powerful. I want to read all of this, of course, but and there's a section in the symbology in this card for water and wings, which is such an interesting thing to be able to navigate both the realm of water and the realm of sky. And if you think about the Rider-Waite-Smith 6 of Swords and the way that they are traveling over water, that water reference, like this is a very intensely thought out deck. Like it's definitely aligning. And then here we have the 7, and that's like a weasel or a stoat or something. Let's see. Yeah, weasel. Which makes sense. I am honest with myself and with others. Others are honest with me is the sigil. I like that we have the yin-yang symbol built into the sigil, as well as, of course, we have our 7 circles and 7 unique different blades sitting on a pile of treasure. Love that. There's also a rat on the card. So the little blurb, when one casts a spell, the intention is of utmost importance. When one weaves deception, how much credence does a pure intention lend? Interesting. Let me think about that. When one casts a spell, the intention is of utmost importance. When one weaves deception, how much credence does a pure intention lend? I like that a lot for the 7 of Swords, or the 7 of Blades, I should say. So it's sort of like, hey, your intention doesn't matter if you're being terrible. Like, not the point. I could see this being a difficult card. This is the the 8 of Swords. And of course, this is a rabbit. And the affirmation, the sigil affirmation is, I am my own liberator, which is very interesting. What does it say? Oh, hare, excuse me. The hare was sacred to Aphrodite and her Roman counterpart Venus as an emblem of fruitfulness, abundance, and luxury. Goes on from there. She could easily escape her capture if she tried, yet she does not. Perhaps she has forgotten the taste of freedom. More likely, she has forgotten her entitlement to it. Reversed, this card indicates that we have successfully recaptured our spirit of independence and rediscovered our intrinsic power. So yeah, this is very much a live bunny who can escape if she chooses. Here's the sort of a sleepless, anxious 9 of Swords, which is really interesting here. What kind of, that literally looks like one of the witch's flying monkeys. Please tell me it is. It says night hag. Interesting. The old hag, night hag, Mara, and the nightmare all refer to a phantom creature born from Germanic, English, Swedish, and Scandinavian folklore to explain the phenomenon of night terrors, nightmares, and sleep paralysis. The night hag can either take the form of an old wild woman or a goblin-like beast. Some evidence suggests that she, not unlike the famed witch Baba Yaga, may be reminiscent of a pre-Christian pagan crone goddess, a haggard-looking death deity as wild as the wood and colder than the dead of winter. Goes on from there. Interesting. It's just so fascinating to me just how much, but you can see we still got kind of a scythe-like shape built in here, so you really get the intensity of the card. It does look like the witch's flying monkeys, right? Like, I'm not making that up. Okay, cool. This is a very almost Marseille-like 10 of Swords, and I'm kind of about it. It's all sides, which is really powerful. And of course, we have a Viper here. Really potent card. I'm just curious what the sigil affirmation is. I release the pain and anger from my heart. I forgive so that I may move on. One of the interesting things about the sigil affirmations, it reminds me of a talk that I attended by T. Susan Chang at the Northwest Tarot Symposium. And she was talking about how our daily draws can make us feel scared or disempowered, like if you pull the Ten of Swords or you pull the Tower. And one of the things that I feel like the sigil affirmations help us do is to sort of reframe those conversations and sort of take the power back from those experiences. So you pull a difficult card, but you can go to the sigil affirmation, which is also in this little book, just so you know you're not missing out. And you can read that and sort of think about how you can reframe the experience of that card and take it throughout the day as a source of empowerment rather than as a source of disempowerment. And there's more to what T. Susan Chang was talking about, of course, but it just reminds me of that. It just feels very potent, that sort of reclaiming. Okay, so we're in our first set of court cards here in the Blade suit, and we have our first Jester. So let's talk about this for a second. So how do we know we are in the air suit when we're looking? Because the Jesters, of course, are all going to look fairly similar. So there's a few cues I noticed when I was looking at walkthroughs and stuff for these cards. Somehow I've ended up... It's like the courts are in a different order in the grimoire for some reason. Like, is the Jester at the end? Where's the Jester? Hello? Yeah, the Jester's at the end for some reason, so I think they go in reverse. Like, it starts maybe with the... Does it start with the King? Yeah, it starts with the King and counts down. So, I put these back in order, so sorry. But anyway, so we start with the Jester. And the Jester's the equivalent to the page in a traditional tarot deck. So it's associated with all of the air signs. So we have a very prominent, so let's look at a few things, okay? So we have a very prominent air symbol. So the alchemical triangle for air right there in the sigil. If we look at the actual Jester's mask, we can see little wisps of air in their collar. And I thought you could also see the alchemical symbol, but maybe not. I might be making that up. The biggest thing for me, the biggest tell for me would be the air symbol in the sigil. And I'm just wondering, and all the little wisps of air through their decor here. And they're of course also that yellow color, which I would associate with air usually as well. So if you were to shuffle this and pull this in a reading, you could go, okay, that's the Jester of air. And then working backwards here we have the Mask of Gemini. So this is going to be the Princess, I believe, which is the equivalent to the Knight. So the Princess of Blades, the Mask of Gemini. So this is really easy because if you look at the sigil is a stylized Gemini symbol. So we have the two staffs, the curve here, and the curve here. So again, being familiar with the astrological symbols is really helpful. I also see Venus here, and I believe Venus is the ruler of Gemini. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I spotted that right away. I also see here, again, if we're wondering what suit we're in, we of course have the wings here around the mask, but if you look closely, there's also a astrological symbol for air in the actual mask itself. So you see that right there. So there's several clues about which one you're in. You could potentially use the colors, but the colors are not super vibrant, so I wouldn't go right to color. I'd go to symbols to differentiate which mask. And built into the mask also, I just noticed this now, this is so cool, are the actual astrological, like the constellation of Gemini is actually built into the mask on either side. Do you see this? Isn't that cool? Okay. And it looks like it does that the whole way through. Oh, that's cool. Okay. So next up we have the Queen, the Mask of the Queen. And the mask here is of Pisces. And I know that without looking at the book. Or excuse me, is it Pisces or Aquarius? Oh my God, am I lying? Oh, it's Aquarius. My bad. Okay. I was just going to say, I thought I saw Pisces here. But anyways, we have the astrological symbol of air. So again, we know we're in the air suit. Up here, we have a stylized Aquarius. Right? 3 lions like waves. We also have the stylized Aquarius up here in the mask, right there. We also have wings, of course, on the mask. So again, we know we're in air. And this is the constellation for Aquarius built into the mask right here. So several little symbols. And this is is it Neptune? Is that the ruler of Aquarius? My astrological information is still kind of basic. And then we have the King, and this is Libra. The Mask of Libra. So we can see Libra, we can see the scales in the sigil here very clearly. We also have the constellation Libra built into the mask. We have the air symbol. We have, is it Venus again? Is Venus the ruler of Libra too? Oh man. So I think it's possible that the planetary ruler, it might say in the grimoire, let's just see if it says. Yes, it does. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Okay. We're going to do this with this one so that you can kind of see what it does in the grimoire. So it says, the Mask of Libra bears many allusions to Justice's scales and its astrological associations. Mirrored on the left and right of the temples is the plotted constellation of Libra, which I've already pointed out. On the forehead of the mask, where these mirrored constellations converge, is the zodiac glyph for Libra. Oh, of course. It's right here. It's right there. It's like the, you know, it's that. And then the line underneath. And then just below that is the alchemical symbol for air, which I pointed out. The elemental group of which Libra is a part of. Coming out of the alchemical triangle base is the symbol for Venus, the planetary ruler of Libra. Okay, so I was right. So there's Venus there. So it breaks all this down in the grimoire. So if you really want to understand the mask and break down all the symbology in the mask, it's in there. It does go on from there. It talks about the bay laurel wreath. It talks about the crown on the head. I mean, like, it goes on and on and on. So you've got those descriptions for every mask here. That's really cool. So if I get stuck on any of the other masks, I will turn to this for sure. Okay, so that brings us to, we already did the Jester of Blades. What suit are we going into next? So we're going into the Branches suit next. So I'm just going to put this pile back on top. So now Branches is going to be the suit of Wands, the suit of Fire. So we have the alchemical symbol for fire, that upward facing open triangle is going to be in all the sigils, I'm assuming. So we have this like flaming living branch, which is such a powerful symbol for the Ace of Fire. For the Two of Fire, I'm going to be curious how to handle some of these. So let me just see. The Two of Fire, the sigil affirmation is I make plans and take action with my end goal in mind. And here we have, let's just see what we have here. Rowan branches. Hands, of course. The sphere talks about colors. In the 3, we have a, is that a chicken or a rooster? Y'all, I'm so bad with animals. I think it's a rooster. Yep, rooster. So the association with the 3 of Wands and the rooster, what is the deal? Okay, this is funny. I'm a child. I can't help it. I'm like a teenager. But like, look it doesn't say rooster, does it? No, it doesn't. I'm just going to let you see that for yourself. In most cultures, the rooster is a masculine and mostly positive symbol because he heralds the rise of the sun, which itself symbolizes masculine energy. Okay, go on. In Greek mythology, it was associated with the sun gods Helios and Apollo and was commonly sacrificed to ensure protection. It was also a symbol attributed to Mercury, the Roman god of commerce, business, wealth, travelers, tricksters, and thieves. This gives it associations with prosperity and lucrative businesses. In Chinese mythology, it likewise implies fortune and helps ward off evil, especially when brought to funerals. Upright, the one in this illustration, I cannot say that word, I'm sorry. I'm literally 12 right now. Anyways, represents our good fortune mirrored and reinforced by the good sense to remain vigilant over our prosperity. The tree of our success is young enough to be fragile, yet mature enough to begin bearing fruit. So we must stand proud, grateful, and above all attentive. So it's interesting because I view the 3 as more of the embarkation or the beginning or the commencement of what we're going to do. This says, with vigilance and gratitude, I observe my successes expand. Now that does make sense for the 3 of Wands because a lot of the common interpretation for this is like you're getting your ships to come in. So you're experiencing fortune, you're experiencing some small success. That's not typically how I see it, though I suppose there's obviously a case to be made for any of these interpretations because tarot is such a vibrant, unique tool. But for me, I would need to rework this one, I think, a little bit for myself, but it still works. Then we have the 4 of Wands. This is where I typically am looking for some sign of a little bit of success, a little bit of something to celebrate, a milestone. So we have olive branches, peonies, hands tied in red ribbon. My voice is going. This is like a really long video. I'm sorry. So here we have the 5 of Wands. Now, as opposed to the 5 of Blades, which shows, I just want to compare these real quick, which shows the sort of the spotted hyena on top here, just like being, a jerk like they were in Lion King. And then in the 5 of Wands, we have 2, I'm guessing, wolves going head to head here. So it's a much more like even battle, if that makes sense. Something I look for is the difference between these 2 cards because they can be commonly confused. So here we have, are they wolves? Yeah, wolves. Okay, cool. Just making sure. So we have wolves, a lot of information on the wolves. Like there's a full page and a half in this giant grimoire just on the wolves. And then we have the dire wolf skeleton here. So that's a dire wolf. Interesting. Snow. Cool for the 5 of Wands. This looks like the lion from the Strength card, which is really cool. Six of Wands. And there are 6 trees behind this lion. So it's, again, it's very easy to count the suit symbol still. There's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees visible on the background there. So you can like look for it that way if you don't want to count the dots or whatever, or if you don't recognize the scene. So anyways, here we have the 6 of branches. This almost has an 8 of branches feel or 8 of Wands feel. It's like feels speedy, you know. The sigil affirmation, I receive, acclaim, and am worthy of respect. So we, of course, have... Oh, this is a manticore. I thought it was a lion. That is a manticore. Oh, there's his tail. The manticore has a scorpion's tail. That's cool. And then we have the 7 of Wands, or 7 of branches, which is often about having the high ground. So this tower perspective really works for me. And I'm looking for animals here, but I'm not seeing them. Talks about ivy branches or oak tree branches that are visible and castle and flags. There's our 8, and that should be a doe? Question mark? It says doe, which I wouldn't immediately go to for speed. White doe, river branches. Those are pine branches or pine trees behind them. Love the sort of arrow and the wings kind of visible in the sigil. And then we have the 9 of branches. The affirmation here is I grow stronger, braver, and wiser with each new trial. And we have blackthorn tree branches. And in the background, we have a hut on chicken feet, which of course is Baba Yaga's hut. So we get into some Baba Yaga mythology here in the grimoire. And then we have the 10. This is a much more grim 10 than I think I'm used to seeing. It usually looks more alive, if not somewhat burdened. And the sigil affirmation, I carry my burdens with grace and know when to release them. Here we have a skeleton holding the globe. Oh, is that meant to be Atlas? It reminds me of Atlas either way. So the skeleton is holding up this giant sort of thing. Hawthorn branches, butterflies. Here's what the little blurb at the end says. Those who dare to succeed must also dare to fail. Similarly, it requires great strength to keep going despite our discomfort and greater strength to admit defeat and cast aside the burdens that crush us beneath their weight. And now we're into the fire sigils. So again, we pull up, I'm going to go backwards here again and start with the Jester because they go backwards in the grimoire. The Jesting Mask of Fire. So the main things I'm going to be looking for is a symbol of fire. Now the color, again, is a pretty good giveaway, I feel like, on the mask. The Jester's cap has 5 sections, 2 on each side and 1 in the middle, each with a small bell hanging from it. Okay, so it says the 2 sections on the cap closest to the center, so up here, depict the elemental, repeating the elemental sign for fire. So we have all these like little upward triangles built into those little bits. In the center of some of these triangles is a small dot representing the center of self, where instinct meets spirituality. So it talks about that. It talks about the lace pattern on the crown. This one is one of the least obvious what element, because I don't see a really obvious symbol for fire. I do see it in the sigil, but I feel like it's a little more stylized. What does it talk about flame? Oh, the lace pattern on the crown of the cap depicts wildfires spreading under 2 pine trees. So this part here is flames in the cap. There's also sort of flames here in the eyebrows, so it's definitely possible to see this as fire, especially with the color, but I feel like the air one was a little easier to tell. And then we go to the Prince of Fire, Prince of Branches, and here in the mask, we should have the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, because I see an arrow here. Yep, the mask of Sagittarius. And let's see, so we have Jupiter on here, which is the planetary ruler of Sagittarius. Where is that? Let's see. Oh, right in the center. We have the symbol for Jupiter. where the two constellations meet. Ah, yes. Okay, so where we have the constellations still in the temples here for Sagittarius. Where they meet, we have the symbol for Gemini, or excuse me, for Jupiter built in there. The stylized sigil here literally looks like a bow and arrow, so that one's really obvious to me. And the actual symbol of Sagittarius is also in here. Oh, it's like part of the design here. So there's an upward facing arrow there. Behind that we see the alchemical symbol for fire. So everything's on there. Then we have the queen. Now she's got the sunflowers in her mask, which makes it really easy to identify her. I think is the queen of wands or of branches here. And this one, we see the alchemical symbol for fire. She's Leo. I can see Leo in her sigil, big and bold here. We also, of course, have Leo's constellation. Should be built into her mask. Let's just see. The sun, the planetary ruler for, is on the temple here. And that's where we see, oh, Leo is right here. It's built into the temple area. I'm just wondering where the constellations are. Either side of the forehead is the constellation. For some reason, I'm having a harder time like identifying the constellation in the mask. I don't know the constellation for Leo though, so I just might not be spotting it. Oh, it's right there. It's right there. It's just, okay, so it's, basically it's this line here. Where is it? This line. And over here. And then it meets in the middle. Yeah, I see it now. Okay. And then we have the king, who is Aries. And I can see Aries right here in the center of the forehead. I can see the astrological sign for fire. We should be seeing Mars somewhere on this. Let's just see where that is. Mars is... So we have the constellation again built into the either side of the forehead in the line work. You can, of course, also see the symbol for Aries built in here to the into the sigil over this crescent moon. I'm just wondering, did I check here? Yeah, I did show her Leo, and then we have Aries there. This one's really obvious to me as the King of Fire. And let's see, does the guidebook agree, or does the grimoire agree? Are we actually into the suit of water? Oh no, we go coins next. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I can roll with it. Okay, so now we have our coin suit. So we have our ace. Love this coin in the center here. Does it actually address the symbology on that coin? Because I think that's the, isn't that like a fairy? The 8-pointed star. I always think of it as a fairy star. I don't think that's fair, but that's what I think of it as. So again, we have the alchemical symbol for earth, the downward pointing triangle with the line between that we'll see on every card. Here we have the two coins, symbolized sun and moon, and the flowers here are hyacinth or... I'm really bad at this. Lilac? Oh. Is it purple willow? Sweet Elysium flowers. And then in the 3, we have the obvious structure. This is very Rider-Waite-Smith, the 3 dots. That makes lots of sense. And there's 2 bees and a flower here, which is really cool. What does it say about that? That's on the 3. Yeah, coins, bee and rose, and the window arch. Those have got to be blackberries. And the 4 of coins. Yeah, blackberry. Blackberry bramble is the main symbol here. Why brambles? Is it the protective? Let's see what it says in the last blurb. The fruit left to ripen on the vine in its own time is the most delicious yet difficult to obtain. Still, a vine grows more than a single berry, and the earth is generous and plentiful. She will provide if we are patient. The 5 shows a spider. Not fond of this spider. This is a scary spider. But I get it for the 5 of coins. It kind of makes sense to me. So, the spider sits in the middle of her web, representing the cosmic center of the universe. from which she feels all vibrations. Let's see, she talks about the weaver of fate. The spider weaves a vast and stable web as magnificently intricate as it is effective. Even this safety net can be easily torn. Stability is one of the greatest illusions. In life, there is no certainty. That we will live to see the light of another day is at best an assumption. Still, when one web fails, the spider wastes no time constructing another and thinks nothing of the ruins upon which she builds. Which I think is a very powerful message for the 5 of coins. And then we have the 6. Who is that? I need to know. Who is that? He looks like he's mythological. Dragon. This is an Eastern or Chinese dragon. Cool. I really like this 7. It's so cozy, but we have pentacles. We have a pumpkin patch. We have 7 pentacle marked coins. Did I miss anything? Pumpkins and the brooms, of course. Love the brooms. I like brooms because they represent the sort of hard work, like the sort of drudgery, I guess, in a way of creating something and getting it there, getting it to the end, getting it to where you're trying to get it to. Y'all, I'm fading because this has been a really long deep dive, but we're gonna do this. We're doing really well. Okay, so then we have the 8 of coins. I love this black cat in the books, and it just speaks of like mastery and study and diligence. And then we have the 9. Okay, what kind of bug is that? Jewel beetle? That sounds right. Yeah, jewel beetle, grapevine wreath, and roses and coins. Look at these bunnies, this bunny family, with all this treasure in the 10 of coins. Oh, so good. Okay, and then we have the earthly jester. So again, we're looking for an earthly symbol. We can see downward pointed triangles, like with the line through them up here in the cap. We can see almost like little symbols. We actually have the alchemical symbol for the planet of Earth, right? Like the little circle with the, come on, focus, with the little cross in it, there and there. We have some plant life here. He's, of course, the color of green, which brings us back to Earth. Okay. And then we meet our princess, and she is associated with Virgo. We have the Virgo constellation on the sides here and the glyph for it here. You can actually also kind of see the glyph kind of sideways. I think in the sigil, I could be making that up, but I kind of see it. The wheat coming from her braided hair is also a really strong symbol. And what is the symbol there? Here she is. I just want to see. I love the section here called Symbols of Design because that really breaks it all down. Ah, Mercury. This is Mercury. I can see it now, which is the ruler of Virgo. And then we have Capricorn. So we have the earth symbol. What is that one? Is that just an extension? This bit with the little loopy. We have all these leaves around her. Our queen. And we have the symbol, the constellation for Capricorn. So clever how these masks were done. And then we have, for the king, we have the mask of Taurus. This one's a lot easier. I can see Taurus here again in the sigil. Did I see Capricorn in the sigil? Yeah, it's like here, it's up here, and mirrored image on either side. Here we have Taurus right there. We have Taurus right there. We have the constellations here. We see Venus again, which rules Taurus. And that brings us to the water suit, which should be cups. Let's just double check. But that's what it's called. Suit of cups, yes. So we have the downward pointed open triangle without a line through it. We start off with a cup with lotus flowers in it. Would recognize those anywhere. I'm just going to make sure it's called... Sometimes they call them water lilies. Nope, lotus. Okay, perfect. Talks about the red liquid and the symbology of that. This is really interesting with the cobras here. So we have, for the 2 of cups, entwining serpents and the heart and skull. Heart and skull. Oh, one of these cups has a heart motif and one has a skull motif. So Zia breaks that down. And then in the 3 of cups, we have 3 bony hands, all different, holding up these different cups. And the cups have orcas on them. These two do. And this one looks like it might have an octopus on it. Yeah, orca and octopus are the main animals here. Cool. And then we have the 4 of cups with the frog. This has got to be a fairy tale reference. Where are we? The crowned frog and the golden ball. Yep. That is definitely a fable reference. The Frog Prince. Yeah, duh. Okay. So we've got quite a lengthy entry actually for this card because it goes into the story of the Frog Prince, which is awesome. So that is the 4 of cups. And then we have the 5 of cups is the cat, and they've knocked over, they're spilling stuff. Just being typical cat jerks. Jerk, singular, I suppose. So we have the glass jars, we have the gray cat, the candles, the crow skull. There's lots of stuff here. There's crow skull right there. Yay, another unicorn. Please let that be the main symbol. Oh, yes. The unicorn is perhaps one of the oldest and most beloved mythical creatures and was even believed, sometimes still believed, to be real well into the time of the Spanish Inquisition. Goes on from there. Love, 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 love. I think that makes so much sense for the 6 of cups. In the 7 of cups, we have this gorgeous fountain. This reminds me a lot, actually, of the Thoth 7 of cups a little bit. The sort of, what's that card called? Debauch, I think, in the 7 of cups. So the wishing well is the reference here, and the animal there is a serpent. And there's also some coins going into the, or kind of flowing around the fountain. So we have that wishing well vibe for sure. Oh, look at the 10 has a seahorse. That's really cute. So we have some bottles all stacked up, the full moon, the seahorse mythology. I do want to go back real quick to the 9. I just want to see what it says in the little blurb, just because it's such an important card to me. So let's see. The little blurb says, if fate is kind, she will test those who demand their rewards by offering them a taste of this nectar before delivering upon their desire. We should heed her test and think upon the answering call before crying for more. This is an excellent... Is that right? Oh, that's a 7 of cups. Yo, I wasn't even at... Hold on. 7 of cups. Yo, you could tell I'm getting tired. It's very late when I'm filming this. This is the 8 of cups. I was like, what am I reading? So I was just reading from the 7 of cups. I was like, what? Wishing well. Fantasy. 7. Yes, makes sense. I just got myself lost for a minute. 8 of cups. We have the seahorse. So the 9 of cups, I haven't even seen yet here, is the contented kitty. Okay, I've seen it because I've looked at these cards a little bit, but... love this so much. And the blurb for the 9 of cups is, any loving lap is one of luxury for a kitten. Although we may bask in or yearn, and there's some swans in the next card that I can't wait. I was like waiting till, I was getting distracted by the image over here. Okay, anyways. Although we may bask in or yearn for the material security that comes from wealth, fame, and fortune, we must never underestimate the value of love, loyalty, and emotional contentment, for therein we find purer riches. I really like that image for the 9 of cups. I like the concept of contentment for this card, so that works really well. The 10 has the beautiful swans making the heart, and just a gorgeous scene here. Love this. And we, of course, have the moon and stars behind. Love, love, love. Okay, so now we have the Jester of Water. So there's a really obvious water drop right there. So this bottom point, actually, of the Jester's mask, I just realized I haven't been paying attention to, but I think there's a hint as to the element, but I can't tell. So this is the air mask. Do we see a hint to air in this bottom point? I don't know. What about the fire? Yeah, I feel like in the fire one there's flames. And then in earth, there's a flower. So some of them seem more obvious than others. I'm just looking for all of the little indicators. But of course the colors work really well for the jesters. So we have little waves here. We have the alchemical symbol for water. So they're very consistent. There's a cup in this top centermost piece. So that works. We have Scorpio here. So again, we have the constellations. We have the sign for Scorpio. All of the good stuff here. Oh, and actually, there's actual scorpions up here on the crown. And then the queen is Cancer. This works really well. We have the moon, which rules over Cancer. We have the zodiac sign for Cancer built in right here. And I see the crab on her crown, and I see this sort of alchemical symbol for Cancer built in here. But instead of it showing up in the center of the mask, it shows up on her like sort of eyebrow area in the card. So cool. And then the king is Pisces. So again, we have the constellation, we have the astrological glyph, all kinds of stuff on here. Yeah. Oh my gosh, did we just make it through all the cards? Okay. So really quickly, we're going to go through the oracle just so that you know roughly what they are, because one of the things that struck me about the oracle cards is that they all featured animal skulls, but they're not necessarily named after those skulls. So let's go into the oracle arcana here and go over them really quickly. So we have the king cat. This is the cat skull. We have the crow, which is called the strategist. That's a raven or crow skull. Then we have the serpent's tail, which is a snake, obviously. Does it just say serpent? Rattlesnake skeleton. Then we have the keeper of serenity, and this one is a, come on, I want to get through all the pages here. A stag skull. I think that's a rabbit. So the bringer of luck, and that is a rabbit skeleton. Then we have the bringer of health, and this is a horse skeleton. I keep thinking my cards are sticking, but they're not. They're not sticky. They're like a smooth mat. Then we have a swan, and this one is called the giver and keeper of love, which makes sense. We have a goat, I believe, for the guardian of the arts. Excuse me, manticore skeleton. Very cool. Okay, and then we have the bringer of dreams, and this is going to be a specific kind of moth. Luna moth and stars. So we're coming back to sort of that Luna moth. And then we have the hawk's head moth, or no, excuse me, the death, what's this one called again? Death's head hawk moth, and this one is bringer of powerful magic. I think it's a wolf, question mark. The eternal protector, and this is a wolf skull. They feel very bone, obviously bone oriented. The Lord of Wealth, this is a cow skull. And then we have the Keeper of Secrets. So we have a lock and key here. We have a Thing of Beauty, and we have the crystals. We have the Victor's Blade. And the flowers here are nasturtiums. Nasturtiums? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Then we have the Spirit of Joyous Liberation. And this should be sunflowers, crows, yeah. Then we have the Corpses of Creation. And this is the eel skeleton. There's also a clam with a pearl. Shouldn't that be an oyster and a pearl? I don't know. Anyways, and then we have the Forgotten Ones. Bird and fish skeleton here. Together. So we have the fish skeleton here, we have the bird skeleton. Then we have the energetic flyer, and this is the hummingbird skeleton. So sweet. And then we have the master of rebirth, and we have a snake shedding its skin. The bumblebee, love him. On the thistle. The queen of productivity. Yep, bee and thistle. And then we have the poised and patient ones. And this is just a fish skeleton among the lily pads there. And this one is the Keeper of Youth. And it is golden apples, sparrow and golden acorn, and holly. Then we have the Staff of Asclepius. White serpent and staff, peony. This is called the Student of the Moon. For some reason I thought it was called the Disciple of the Moon. That's interesting. I'm going to check here. For some reason I have it in my head as the Disciple of the Moon. Yep. So in the small guidebook, it calls it the Disciple of the Moon. But in the big book, it calls it the Student of the Moon, which is interesting. I prefer Disciple, to be honest. I don't know why, but I do. So that's just a little discrepancy between the small book over here in the grimoire. And that is a crawfish, water and rock. Then we have something about tools. The seeker. Oh yes, I see that which is kept hidden. This is a magnifying glass and a skeleton key, which is a cool combination. We also have some chicory there. And then we have the gates of Hades, and this is going to be Cerberus. Three-headed dog. Bringers of Light, I believe this one is called. Yes, the Bringers of Light, and that's just the sun and the moon and the stars, I'm assuming. Sun, moon, and stars. Not just sun and moon, but I see stars. I'm going to go with all three. And then we have, this is the tools one. Yeah, the tools of fate and free will. So what we have here are a spinning wheel, a staff and thread, and scissors. So we have like sort of the tools of the Mirai, basically here is how I would interpret that. And then we have the Prophet. This is the 30th Oracle card. And that features the crow as an egg, bird, and skeletons. You see the egg, you see the bird, you see the skeletons. You see the sort of like cycle of life, and that was called the Prophet. And that is the last Oracle card. So, as you can see, there's a lot. There's a lot. We're going to shuffle a little bit in a moment. But before I shuffle, just a quick more gushing about the grimoire. So we've still got this much text left in the book. And this is literally like so much good stuff. So there are spreads here. There are correspondence tables. Let me just pull them, get past. There's a lot of spreads. But these big spreads, I don't know if I'll ever do them. We'll see. There's a section here on sigil magic, which is great. It teaches you how to make sigils, talks you through them. Great resource right there. And then you have a master list of all of the sigil affirmations for the entire deck. So if you just wanted to know, if you just wanted to browse through here and find an affirmation that really spoke to you and then work with that sigil, you could. And there's also for the Oracle Arcana. And then there's extra sigils. So this talks about extra sigils that were created through the Kickstarter campaign, which is really cool. And I encourage you to look at this. Then there are some correspondence tables. So you have astrological correspondences, zodiacal correspondences. Yeah, these are the astrological associations according to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So we have the planets, the signs, and how they were attributed. We have daily magic. So this talks about, I believe, planetary alignment. So Tuesday's the day of Mars, Aries, and Scorpio. It talks about different types of magic to do on different days. The numerology of tarot. So we have a whole section. I know I'm not all the way in frame. Sorry. The numerology of tarot. We have animal correspondences and their symbolic meanings. So you can look up a particular animal. Like if I wanted to just go right to, why does unicorn not get a listing? I saw dragon in here. Dragon is here. Unicorns were in your deck. Why is unicorn not here? I'm sad now. Okay, anyways. And then there's plant correspondences, which is awesome. And then there's crystal correspondences. So this part serves as an actual grimoire. Then there's color, a little section here on the symbolism of and psychology of color, different kinds of candle magic. Then there's some spell work back here. So I'm just going to kind of quickly flip through these, different kinds of spells. And then we have references and acknowledgements, which I'm assuming is going to be all of the Kickstarter backers and such. And then we have an index. So let's see if Unicorn has an entry in the index. I love me a good index, I gotta say. Unicorn, 397. Which card? Because it shows up in more than one card. Oh, but this is going to be the card where it actually had, it'll be the 6 of Cups. Yep. Here it is, where it actually has an entry all about it. So that, my friends, was the Nameless one and the grimoire and all the things. So let me zoom back out because this has been epic. I'm not going to bother trying to edit this too much because I feel like if you're watching this, you want to like deep dive into all of this. I should point out, in case I didn't already, that the grimoire does come with its own sleeve to keep it protected. I mean, this is going to go on my shelf, assuming it's not too tall. But very excited about that. That was a lot of fun to go through. Let's do some shuffling. So the Oracle deck I can probably shuffle. They're tall, but the cardstock is not terribly thick. So if I wanted to shuffle the whole deck, I probably could. I just have to break it down into smaller piles. Like it fans beautifully. So that's the Oracle part of the deck. I'm actually just going to pop this back in the box in the bottom so I can make sure to not accidentally mix them up. So those are the Oracle cards. I'll just put them the guidebook makes a great little divider for that. And then, let's see, could I possibly shuffle? Are these all upside down? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's just see. Could I? It's probably way too much of a stretch. I could probably, if I'm really determined, kind of drop shuffle them. I wonder if I could go sideways. Let's try it. Kind of. I feel like this is going to be a vertical hand over hand kind of situation. They're a little bit clumpy because they're new, but you can see by the finish they've got a little bit of a sheen. So they're not like flat matte or rose petally. So once they break in a little bit, I feel like they do this part really nicely. Let's try breaking it into 2 piles. And then breaking those into 2 piles. And then mix and match. So I'll shuffle these. Yeah, I'm not going to want to do that, I don't think, very much. I have to bend the cards too much. Like, it's doable, but yeah. I think I'll do it a couple of times just to kind of get them mixed. But it's not great. I mean, they're just tall. They're just tall cards. I think I can probably kind of go this way, but they want to bend a little bit. Like, they don't, it's quite a stretch. So I can only grab a few at a time. It's not the worst, but I feel like this is a vertical hand over hand shuffle deck. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pull 1 card and we're going to just double check that I've told you everything I can about the small guidebook that comes with the deck. All right, so let's fan it out. We'll pull that card. And we got the Mask of Scorpio, which is, I believe, the Prince. Now, that is the one thing, telling which rank the card is. Like, I can tell it's Scorpio. I think the Scorpio was the Prince, because it doesn't really have a big crown. Pretty sure. Okay, so let me get the guidebook out. And Scorpio is water. There we go. Oh, Queen. My bad. No, the Queen of Cups. That's Cancer. No, I was right. The Prince of Cups is Scorpio. So the sigil affirmation is so here's what you get. You get the tarot title, the sigil affirmation, the upright, and a paragraph, the reversed, and a paragraph. So for this one, upright, I transform perpetually into the best version of myself. I see and accept what must be destroyed to serve my highest good. Those who wear the Mask of Scorpio are intense, fearless, strategic, and persistent. Pluto is Scorpio's planetary ruler and governs power, transformation, destruction, and reaching beneath the surface to bring truth into the light. Those born to it are highly adept at discovering people's true feelings and motivations. They are fiercely loyal and protective partners and are genuinely interested in life's inner workings. They are mysterious, sexual, alluring, and evocative. Reversed, obsessive and controlling, those who wear the Mask of Scorpio reversed are suspicious and prone to self-sabotage. They hold indefinite grudges and seek vengeance, even at the expense of their own happiness. So that's what you get in the mini guidebook. Now, as far as precursor text, there was just that little bit I showed you in the beginning. And then at the end, you do still get all the Oracle Arcana in here. And you do get a few of the spreads and then the acknowledgements. So that is what you get in the smaller guidebook. Again, I think you could definitely work with this deck without getting the massive grimoire. I am so glad that I did, though, to be completely honest. I'm really, really happy with this deck. There's a lot here. It does feel like something I'm going to want to work with slowly and over time. Very likely going to be doing some Dark Moon work with this, perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't decided yet, but I definitely am going to be wanting to work with this for a while. That is the Nameless one. And thank y'all. I said it was going to be a deep dive. I didn't lie. But I wanted to do this deck justice because I think it's just really unique. And I certainly benefited by watching other people's walkthroughs before I purchased it. So definitely check out other people's walkthroughs as well. I wish I could remember whose I watched to link them specifically. I can't. I literally just looked up this deck and then watched everything I could find. So definitely recommend that if you are interested. It is quite a treat to have this. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to continue to work with it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. My voice is completely shot, so I'm going to get off of here. But I hope you have a good rest of your day wherever you might be. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and an extra big thank you to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for your support of the channel and the work that I do here. It really means a lot. And to everybody watching, thank you so much. Your likes, your comments, your subscribes, the fact that you watch the videos, all of that makes a huge difference, and I really appreciate you. Until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.